Hello and welcome to Fire in the Belly. Today we have the boardroom talk and we have Heather Lundy come back to join us. Good afternoon and good morning, Heather.
Good morning, Pete. How are you today?
Doing absolutely mighty well. Thank you so much for asking. So give us a bit of background. Who are you, where are you from, and what do you do?
I'm Heather Lundy. I'm an author, one of the authors on this book, BeLIFE for BeLIEf. I'm also a ghostwriter and editor, and I'm a desktop publishing coach.
Wow, very concise. I like it. So congratulations on becoming an author. Lots going on. Talk to us about the book.
Thanks so much. I'm really delighted. I've been writing all my life. I was a journalist. I've written right through, but to have this book published, I'm just thrilled with it. I think it's a really important and a very special book, especially at the minute. And in it, you'll see the title there, BeLIFE for BeLIEf. And it's really about choosing to be life, choosing the life and to live our lives and to live them in the way that we want. And for me, I talk about something that so many of us will go through. So I talk about my separation from my husband, and we were together for the best part of 20 years. And it's something that a lot of people, unfortunately, do go through. And really, in my chapter, I wanted to share kind of my own process and how I have, come to really a place of peace and stepped into a new life and the tools that I've used.
Sounds like you sort of had a bit of a journey, and even just in writing the book. Is that a fair statement?
I think it is a fair statement. Yes, absolutely. I think whenever you sit down and to be part of this book, there's 20 co-authors, yourself included. We have Donna Kennedy, who's a 6 times best-selling author, John Boyle, who's a multi-billionaire who has a brilliant book of his own, but also is contributing to this book. And then all of the people with really their real life stories and the things that they've done and went through. And so the whole process was a privilege, to learn about other people's stories, to see who else was involved. But for me, it was discipline, maybe, of trying to get the message that you wanted to get across, or the things that you felt might help somebody else or might benefit them, into just a chapter. So it was very good to actually have to hone down, well, what actually was it? What are the things that you felt made the difference or helped you to live with it? I mean, one of the big things for me, whenever I think I feel very fortunate, one of the big things for me is that as my marriage ended, I was surrounded by very good people. And I also had a number of people, men and women, who had been through divorces themselves and who shared maybe their own stories did share their own stories with me. And one of the things they had in common was that their biggest regret was that they'd carried like bitterness or hatred for a long time. So some of them were maybe 5, 10, 20 years out of a marriage with someone, and they still felt the effects of it, the effects of a difficult divorce or a difficult marriage. And I'd seen that in people. And I think for me, one of the changes was really accepting, first of all, that it was the best choice and that it was going to happen and it needed to happen. But then choosing to focus very much on myself. What was I going to do? How was I going to do it? And trying to learn from those people and talk to them so that and I'm not judging them. I think it's really understandable, but I remember like saying to them, I really don't want to feel that way. I want to do it in a different way. And I feel that now, a couple of years down the line, that's true.
And so that's really been an ongoing process for you then, and it's fairly fresh. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, well, it'll be 3 years in January. So yeah, I think, and I would not have believed if somebody had told me then that I would have accepted it and moved on, and that everybody would be. I wouldn't have believed it, that it could happen in the time space, and it is still an ongoing process. There's a lot of people involved, including the children, my former husband, and we all have our own story. But I'm sharing my part in that, just.
And obviously there it's, there's, as you say, there's an ongoing journey and an ongoing story, and there's respect being respectful about it as well. So, I think it's fair play to you for telling, a part of the story and your part. So
Yeah.
thank you for sharing that. So who is the book for then?
I feel the book is for really people who have, I think the people who benefit most from the book are people who are really at a point in their lives where they're going through something, or they've come to a point, like many of us, I know I have been, and many of us have been, where they really think, they feel within themselves things need to change. Maybe they've hit an issue that is difficult for them to manage. They could be having marriage difficulties or relationship difficulties, addictions, mental health issues. And I think at the moment, as we've been through the last 8 months, especially with the pandemic, a lot of the things that you're hearing are covered in this book. So we're hearing that some people are experiencing more mental health problems, or that divorces are potentially on the rise as relationships struggle under the pressure of being together more than normal. A lot of the themes in this book I think will really resonate, and why I feel it's important is because here you have people who've been through many of the things. I'm not saying it's going to be the exact same, but I think from the stories that I've read, you'll find something that you can resonate with, and you'll be able to relate. They're very relatable people, the people that are involved, and be able to hopefully learn or take from them some of the things that might help you as a reader.
That's so interesting. I mean, some of the words, you talked about there, you talked about acceptance, you talked about choice, you talked about change, and there's so many things. And as you said, that could be applied to a lot of different life events, really, I suppose. And that can apply to a lot of people, especially in today's environment, right?
Yeah. And I do feel like this book, it is put out with the intention to inspire other people. It's put out by all of us with the intention to share our stories in a way that will help people or maybe empower them. It's and whenever you talk, like sometimes I laugh because you talk about the things, people will be like, what's the book about? And I'm like, well, alcoholism or mental health issues, and I don't mean that in it, but these are things that people really do experience, obviously. But it's not a downbeat, oh my goodness, it's an uplifting book, because you see, you walk with them through that journey and you see how they've overcome, and there's exercises in it, there's tips, there's tools. It's just so practical.
And I'm just noticing there, obviously, with the word belief, and you can choose the polarity of the word belief in a positive or a negative way. In this particular instance, it's the lie part of with the lie word within belief has been pulled out. So explain that, what that means to you.
I think it's very clever, isn't it? Because I hope, certainly for me, it makes you question. So whenever you see BeLIFE or BeLIEf and you have that lie, and what it means to me is that all too often for many of us, our beliefs contain lies. There are beliefs, but quite often a lot of us, and I've certainly done this, will take them as truths or facts. But actually they're only a belief that we have at that moment. And we can, as I was saying, we can accept them or we can choose to change them. And I think it's a very powerful thing to be able to look at our beliefs and really think, do I want to keep that? Is it true? Is it really true? Or do I just think that it's true?
Well, makes a lot of sense. So why did you want to contribute to the book?
Good question. I wanted to contribute to the book because I feel it's a very important book. Whenever I had put in kind of my chapter proposal, and whenever I'd heard about the book and kind of the intention of it and what it was setting out to do, again, and like this book has been in consideration for a long time, really before there was a pandemic, but even more so with 2020. And I don't mean to harp on that, but the reality is a lot of people, it's been a year where a lot of people have faced unprecedented things, and the reality for us as people is that sometimes we can struggle with that, or we have to find new ways. And I wanted to be part of this book because so many people talk to me about getting separated or divorced, and it's not something generally anybody wants, or you don't go into a marriage or a long-term relationship thinking that this will happen. But I think for me, a lot of the times whenever I was first out of my marriage, a lot of the messaging was very negative, or I felt sometimes if I read something, it was all about looking at the other person, which I didn't want. I didn't want that. I didn't feel that would be helpful. And in a book like this, you get to learn things that actually did work, and I think it's very useful. And I do think around divorce and letting go, it's good to get that message out there that I feel that there are things you can do, and it's okay to focus on yourself, and it's okay to think about what you want and to take that time and know that you'll be okay. It's a divorce, but you will be okay.
I think there's so much there, and you mentioned like almost empowering, and I suppose also transforming are words that are used, and how you can change your beliefs, or at least spot where your beliefs maybe aren't serving you, and then choose to be life. Is that something you choose to do?
Most definitely. And I think like one of the things I talk about in the chapter is just how hard I held on. It was a real struggle for me to let go and accept. And I think that's a common thing. And my belief, I suppose at that time, was that it would be okay. I think I thought I would find a magic wand from somewhere. And for a long time, my belief was that it had to be okay. And of course it didn't. It would be okay, but it didn't have to be okay in the way that I believed it would have to be. I think I said that the right way.
What are the key themes that you sort of wanted to get across through your chapter?
The key things I wanted to get across, there's so much within it. Like, it is only a chapter, but there's so much kind of contained within it. As with all the chapters, they're very rich, and certainly in my experience of reading them. And I do feel they're like it's that type of a book that's like a wee hidden gem. It just keeps giving. Within my chapter, some of the themes were, number one, around the letting go, accepting. So I think that's a big thing, certainly for a lot of people that I would have talked to, and was for me. So accepting that the marriage is over. That is a process in and of itself. And then the themes around really the focus on how I got to a point of feeling really good again. So like whenever my marriage was breaking down and I was first separated, it was exhausting. It was a very tiring process. I felt many of the things that many people do. I felt frightened. I felt really sad. You're losing people. Everyone separates in different ways, but quite often the reality is that a lot of relationships change, just not the marriage relationship. A lot of relationships within the extended families might change. And I really talk about kind of the things that helped me, kind of the friendships, the new friendships, the things that I did, and the self-care. So again, that was a big thing. I was, 40, mum of 3, I was working full time, and how I really took time to consider myself and look after myself again, and doing like really nice things that I enjoyed with people that I liked. Imagine.
What does it mean to you now?
What does it mean to me now? The chapter?
Yeah, having written it and to being part of the book and for the book to coming out.
It means an awful lot to me. I feel it's a real privilege to be part of it. I feel proud to be part of it. I feel that it has a really important place right now. And I love the fact that it's real people. Whenever you get to know all the people who are involved, they're all really likable. And nobody's saying, here, I did this all perfectly and I've this all sorted out. You know, they're sharing their stories from a very strong and very vulnerable place, which I really respect. And I think because of that, you know, it's easy to read, it's easy to take on board. And I feel really proud of it. I'm delighted to be part of it. It's been a really enjoyable process, just getting it published, getting it out, telling people about it. Yeah, I'm proud of it.
So talk to us about the actual writing. Are you sit down, pen and paper, away you go? Are you a keyboard warrior? What's your methodology?
Well, my methodology, I do like writing, so I'm an anomaly anyway. So I looked forward to it. Once I'd been told that I had put through a wee bit of information and some bits and agreed the themes and all of that. And then really for me, it was, I had material, I suppose, but also I really started afresh with this. So rather than even what I had submitted, I sort of sat down and started afresh. And that for me looked like, what do I actually want to say? And then I sat with a book and a pen and I wrote it all out longhand so that it would just flow. And I did that over the space of maybe 4 days. And then I let it sit and I read it about a week later. And I wrote out little bits I'd like to add in and stuck them on with bits of paper. So it was really tidy and lovely and organized, not. And then I left it another week. So by that stage, we were at week 3. And I left it another week and then I read it again. And I started to type it out, which was fun because half the time I couldn't read what I'd written myself, but I could piece it together. I typed it out and then I left it for another week. And then I added to it and then I left it a couple of days and then I started cutting it. And then I left it another couple of days and I started adding, and then I sent it to Donna Kennedy, who we were writing it with. She's a 6-time best-selling author and she is fantastic. And I was literally like, can't stop playing with it. I'm handing it over to you because it was too close, because it's my own work. If it's somebody else's work, I can step away, but because it was my own. And she then had asked me a few questions and I ended up adding in basically what I'd cut out. And that was it finished. So I think the whole thing from start was maybe about, a 4-week process. Yeah. And that was because I think it was so close and because I needed to take that time and really reflect and be sure. And I wanted to get everything in, but I wanted it to be very clear.
It makes a lot of sense. I suppose, like, even, with bread or whatever, it needs proving time. It needs time to, digest on it, sleep on it, look at it with fresh eyes, different eyes. And, especially as you say, when it's so close to home, you want to be very careful in your language and your intention. So it makes a lot of sense that you would treat it carefully and respectfully.
Yeah, and respectfully. And it's, I suppose, honor in a process, isn't it? It's like everything in life. Things are important for a reason, and things that are important deserve time and our attention. And actually, sometimes a different word or slightly changing a sentence matters to me. Yeah.
Do you think people will get you?
Yeah.
Cool.
And this one I do, yeah. And this one I do, yeah. I think it's had that time to be clear. And a lot of the work going over it was to kind of think, well, how else might that be taken? That means X to me, but would it mean Y to somebody else? And that was an important part of the process, kind of sense checking it with other people, because we all do that. We tend to come from a viewpoint, and quite often as people, we're talking about assuming, we just assume people will understand where we're coming from or what we mean. But quite often, especially with the written word, you do have an opportunity to take away the potential chance for people to be confused or to take another meaning. So I wanted to take that opportunity.
And that is quite something, isn't it? I suppose when you when you learn, and even as you were saying, your own notes, you could hardly make sense of your own notes. And that's probably typical. We leave ourselves notes, we write stuff down, and if someone else reads it, we're kind of horrified. It's like, excuse my scribbles. And so I know it won't make much sense. It does make sense to you. But
I do find, even when I'm working with other people, though, I do quite often, I'll have it handwritten. I think for me, it's just that it feels like it flows. I'm not the quickest of typists. Although some of the people that will work with me, I'll disagree, because I tend to hammer the keyboard, but I can't keep up with my brain if I'm trying to type it in. So I tend to write it out. And my handwriting has only degraded. I also trained as a journalist, so it's a mixture of shorthand, and only I could probably understand it, but at times I do trip myself up. Yeah.
So you've actually gone through this conscious process of explaining it to yourself and understanding it for yourself, to then almost sitting back and getting a bag of popcorn and saying, would somebody else be able to understand this from a different and outside perspective, and will they be able to relate to it? So there's a whole process you've gone through here.
Yeah, exactly. And I think most of the authors have probably went through that process. Certainly any that I've been involved in, it was stepping back and looking at what you've written, and were you saying what you thought you were saying? I think that's one of the biggest things to ask ourselves, isn't it? Is this showing what I think it's showing?
What's the key message you'd like people to take away from reading your part of the book?
From reading my part of the book? That I think the key message I'd like people to take away is that they'll survive their divorce, and that life can be better. That if they are having to go through a separation or end a long marriage, or a long marriage is ended, or any, not long, any, goodness, that sounds, mine happened to be a long relationship, but even if it can be very short, it doesn't matter the intensity of the feeling. Sure, it doesn't matter how much people are part of each other's lives, it's still the same process. But I think for me, the big thing I'd like people to take away is that if they're going through that they will be okay, and that there's things they can do. And I'd really like them to think the biggest thing, the most positive thing for me, was learning to just put the focus on myself and my children, but the chapter's really about myself. And that freed me up a huge amount. Not to think about what the other person was doing or where they were at. They were on their own journey, but just focus on myself. What was I going to do next? How was I feeling? What was I doing? Who was I spending time with? What did I want to learn or do, or whatever it was? Yeah.
Sounds like you've really changed in yourself through this.
I don't know if I've changed. Well, yeah, yes, I have. I don't know that I don't know that I've changed as a person, but I've certainly done a lot of the things that I hadn't done. And I'm not saying that was because of life is busy or whatever, but this whole process, I suppose I have taken that, like, there's no day, that carpe diem, seize the day, there's no day like today, do it now. And certainly I would certainly be very much aware of my own power, that my life is my choices, I'm responsible for it, whatever I'm feeling, it's up to me, and that I have a say in that always.
I love it, and that's a common theme that's coming across for you there, is that acceptance, choice, change, letting go, empowerment, and transformation. Such strong words, and that all suggests control. That's what's coming across. Is that fair?
In a good way, yeah. I think control is one of my words, isn't it? It's like one of those words it's one of those double-edged swords words, isn't it? So I think it's, yes, control in the sense of I control my reactions, my thoughts, what I do, how I do it. But very much the acceptance that I have no control over what anyone else does or how they show up, or I can only choose my part. And it did take me, I think, until 40, well, 30, what age was I? 38 to get that. Yeah, it did.
Yeah, it's awesome. Fair play to you, and listen, thank you for showing. So what's the call to action for people? What do they need to do?
They need to buy the book and enjoy it. There are the book's available now. Pete, will you put the link in?
I will.
The book is available to pre-order. All pre-orders go to the Kevin Bell Repatriation Trust, which is an amazing charity that's helped so many people right across Ireland to bring home loved ones after their death, so that they can be brought home for burial. So if someone's in family in that situation, you know, rather than having to worry about the logistics of bringing somebody home from a different country after an unexpected death, that Kevin Bell Repatriation Trust will step in and handle everything, all the logistics. They'll work with all the authorities and get the person brought home. And in terms of the pre-orders, we really appreciate the pre-orders. We do want to get this onto the charts. We want to make sure people know about it. And the more pre-orders we have, the best chance we have of doing that. And then it will be published on the 5th of November. So remember, 5th of November.
Love it. Final message?
Final message. My final message would be really that I hope people buy the book. I hope that they maybe buy multiple copies. There's a few, Donna Kennedy's offering some one-to-ones with people and some work with her, which is brilliant. And that they'll share it and talk about it. And that it will go out into the world and be a source of really helping people looking at their own beliefs and helping them choose them and helping them choose to be and have the life that they want.
Awesome. Heather, thank you very much. We'll have your links below for you for people to go out and get the book, and we look forward to it. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much, Pete.